let me give you a sense of what it's like to be me having this conversation. I mean, it seems to me we could have been having this conversation 500 years ago. And life was difficult 500 years ago. There was a lot of despair. There were crops failed and disease spread, and people suffered just instantaneous and catastrophic changes in their fortune. And it was the cause of all of this actually was well understood 500 years ago. It was witchcraft. And happily, the church had produced some very energetic men who had the gumption to deal with this problem. And so every year, some hundreds and sometimes thousands of women were burned alive for casting spells on their neighbors. Now, imagine what it would be like to be among the 5 or the 10% of people at most who recognize that the very belief in magic, the very belief in witchcraft, the very belief in good witches or bad witches was a malignant fantasy. That the white witches who were helping people with medicinal herbs and practicing midwifery, they were on no firmer ground than the black witches who were casting the evil eye. The whole belief system was at fault. Imagine the kind of criticism you're going to get. No, your problem is just with kind of fundamentalist witchcraft. The reality is that witchcraft is far more nuanced than that, and there's no conflict between science and witchcraft. I mean, science deals with physical law and physical causality, but witchcraft deals with potent spells and the internal connections between things. This idea that somehow we shouldn't call into question these patently bad ideas for fear of offending people, for fear of glossing over their despair, for fear of not criticizing other problems in the world. I would never argue that religion is the only problem in the world or the only source of human conflict, but it is a source, and we are mightily attached to it, emotionally attached to it. And we are loath to criticize it even when it is declaring its ugliest intentions and its ugliest certainties. The problem with the Bible is however you pick and choose, whether you're a literalist or a selective literalist, the problem is there's just a mountain of divisive nonsense in there, and that's where people get ideas about homosexuality being an abomination, and why our country in the 21st century debates gay marriage as though it were the great moral issue of our time. This is coming from religion, and it seems to me that it's time we had an honest conversation about that.
That's what anybody who would kill themselves or think they're going to get 72 virgins, I got to say, is insane.
It's actually no crazier, though, than believing that a cracker literally turns into the body of Jesus. It has terrible behavioral outcomes, but it is equally unsupported by evidence. And there's this idea that religious beliefs can be kept separate, and they don't need to intrude into public policy, into politics, into science. And it's just not true. Insofar as somebody actually believes something, it inevitably shows up in the world. I mean, the beliefs are the means to organize behavior and emotion. And so presidents who really believe that the book of Revelation is a guide to the end times could very well lead us into wars that conform to those bogus blueprints. And we have a Muslim world that is lit up with notions of martyrdom and jihad. And these are beliefs, explicit beliefs about how you get into paradise and what it's worth living for and dying for. But yeah, I'm arguing for a certain kind of intolerance. There's no way around that. But it's not the kind of intolerance that gave us the gulag or that would put people in prison for their religious beliefs. I'm arguing for just new rules of conversation. We can call it conversational intolerance, where, if I came on your show and said the Holocaust never happened, I would immediately feel pressure from you to justify that claim, or you would marginalize me immediately as someone who just could not be trusted at least on European history. But if I come on your show and say that I'm in dialogue with the creator of the universe, or if I know a cracker literally becomes the body of Jesus, if you say the right Latin words over it, you have to give me a pass. It's taboo to criticize that, and that's really what I'm challenging in my book. Well, it's true that Christians are playing their game very differently now in the 21st century, for the most part. That doesn't mean that there are not problems with Christianity. But the thing to credit for that development is not Christianity itself or the Bible. We have to credit hundreds of years of secular dialogue and scientific insights that have forced us to ignore certain aspects of our Scripture. Because the Inquisition...
Sam, I don't think that's why Mother Teresa went to the streets of Calcutta.
Well, but
not because
you have
of
to explain the
discourse.
Inquisition. If you think that the people who were killing heretics for 500 years in Europe had not read the Sermon on the Mount, you're sorely mistaken. But I asked both of them, what would have happened if we had burned a Quran on tonight's show? And they knew what would happen. There would be riots in scores of countries. Embassies would likely burn. People would certainly get killed. And we would spend the rest of our lives hiding from theocrats under credible threat of death. Now, that's just a fact. It's a fact that neither of them would deny. And yet, what we have in response to ISIS, who is crucifying people by the side of the road, raping women by the thousands, torturing women, and burying children alive, in the name of Islam, we have a hashtag and we have some demonstrations. Now, I support the hashtag. I support those demonstrations. But we need a groundswell of repudiation of this kind of behavior. And the problem is, and I'm not denying that some people repudiate it, and many millions of Muslims are horrified, but the problem is ISIS is behaving in a way that is sanctioned by a literal reading of the Quran and the Hadith. You can take sex slaves among the infidels. You should cut the infidels' heads off. This is a plausible version of the faith, and it's not a plausible version of Buddhism. So the comparison to the Buddhists who are in Myanmar now killing Muslims is a facile one, because these Buddhists are killing Muslims. It's horrible. It is a sign of tribal violence, but it is not a sign of an honest implementation of the doctrine of Buddhism. You can't find anywhere in the Pali Canon that tells you to go destroy the lives of innocent people. That is something that ISIS is doing, and they are doing it very much in a paint-by-numbers way. And the challenge is for Muslims to speak honestly about this and to reform the faith, find a way of contextualizing these beliefs and reinterpreting them. And there are Muslims who are doing that. Irshad Manji is doing that. Majid Nawaz is doing that. I totally support these people, but the Muslims who get on television, people like Reza Aslan and the liberal apologists like Glenn Greenwald and Nicholas Kristof, who say that this has nothing to do with Islam, ISIS or Al-Qaeda, they're just playing hide the ball with the articles of faith.